Welcome back to Disciple Parenting. This is a channel devoted to equipping parents to best disciple their kids. And today we're going to talk about Christmas gifts. And if it's not Christmas, don't worry, this still applies because these are gifts you can get your children that help bring them closer to Jesus, which is not always as easy as we would like. Let's get into it. Now, I realize I'm a little late to the game as far as like Christmas gifts, but what I like about this set of 10 gifts, we've got 10 things you can get for your kids. These are things that are going to make sense any time of year. They are not Christmas specific. In fact, these are tools to help bring your kid closer to Jesus Christ. And in fact, some of them, even if you don't have kids, are things that you might want for yourself. Now, in the last few weeks, I've been talking to my kids about what they want for Christmas, and that list is terrifying. There are all kinds of random things they say that they want for Christmas, and it is a little bit alarming to say the least. But these are some things that I think we'll be a little bit more comfortable with. I'm going to start with younger kids and kind of work my way up. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is the Jesus Storybook Bible. This is an incredible storybook Bible that is written with Jesus in mind. What I really like about the Jesus Storybook Bible is it's intentionally written so that every story from creation to the second coming points towards Jesus. And so as you are reading these through, it is making clear connections between David and Goliath and Jesus, between the flood and Jesus. And Jesus shines all the way through this book. It is a really good way to start reading those Bible stories to your kids, help them start learning them, but also to know that everything is pointing towards Jesus. And after all, isn't that what we learn in John 5:39? That the scriptures are for that purpose, for pointing us to Jesus. It's so that we can get to know him better. So this is a great tool for kind of the beginning of Bible studies, teaching your kids, hey, this is the purpose of studying the Bible. This is what we learned. So Jesus Storybook Bible, I highly recommend it. Next on that list is, of course, My Bible Friends. And these are probably books that you grew up with, maybe even your parents grew up with. And although there's no question about it, the pictures are a little bit dated. As you look through, you see some clear like 1960s fashion coming through in the pictures and stuff, but that doesn't change their value. They're incredibly well-written stories that just draw the kids in. And I don't know about your kids, but there are some of these stories that have become my kids' favorites, and they've memorized them word for word, and they can go through and just recite the entire story. That's how much they have loved these books. And so a downside to these is they are a little bit more expensive, but they're an investment that is worth it, because just having those stories read over and over again, and I mean, this is how we hide the word in our heart, is just instilling it from the youngest age. And so highly recommend My Bible Friends. The next on that list is the Clear Word for Kids. This is a paraphrase Bible. So, and a kind of a downside to it is in the paraphrasing, they grouped verses together, which makes it really easy to read. It is a beautiful for reading and personal Bible study. It's not as easy for like proof text Bible studies. So as your kids are getting older, it might make more sense to get another Bible where they can look up individual verses and so forth. But what I love about this is, as far as personal Bible studies go, it's pretty hard to beat for kids. It engages them. The stories are well written. And like, for instance, for the month of December, we have been reading through the book of Luke, because you start on December 1 and you read a chapter a day. And by the time you get to Christmas, you have read through the entire gospel. It works out perfectly. And I love the fact that we'll be reading that at night and you get to the end of the chapter. And I've got two little boys who say, "Can't you read more?" That's how this is written. And it's just a beautiful way to introduce your kids to actual Bible study. Now, taking a step further is you've got these journaling Bibles. And I really like these because individual books are written, and some, I mean, they group together. Like here, we've got Jonah, Micah, Nahum, and Habakkuk all in one. Here's the book of Genesis, book of Esther. And you can buy individual books. And they're really nice because they've got the writing on one side and they've got room for writing on the other. And so as your kids are growing older, these serve a couple purposes. First of all, because the books are smaller, it doesn't make it seem so like overwhelming. This is doable. Like they can pick up a book and they can feel like, okay, I can accomplish this. And it gives them like that sense of accomplishment when they've been able to read through the entire thing. But also, these are made to be underlined in. They're made so that you can write notes and write questions over here on this side. And so you're engaging your kids and you're helping them learn like how to actually study the Bible. And they start developing those skills for Bible study that is more relational, where they're interacting with the text. And so, especially as they're starting to get a little bit older, where you don't have to necessarily read to them, they have the comprehension. And these are all in the English Standard Version, which is a very easy to read version. I appreciate it. And so then you read through and start showing them like, hey, this is how you mark it up. This is how you ask questions and put notes. And it not only becomes a beautiful way to study the Bible, but also something to go back to and to study over and over again. And so that also is an incredible gift. Now, this one is maybe a little bit more controversial. It is the Action Bible, and it is written in comic book style. And so it's all of the stories. It's, again, more of like a storybook Bible, but it is all written as comics. And what I've heard over and over again is those kids who aren't necessarily engaged in wanting to read the Bible, those who, maybe reading isn't their favorite thing. This is another beautiful way because it is so graphic. Like the graphic approach to it allows another element to engage those kids. And often we kind of, feel like, no, it needs to be just the text. But here, like, you've got so much more just in these illustrations and stuff as ways to engage those kids. And so I'm a big fan of, hey, let's use every tool we can to connect these kids to Jesus Christ. Something else I've got here is our memory verse box. And this is, it's nothing exciting, nothing incredible. It is just some little like note cards. And what you do is you write the memory verses that you would like to learn in here, and you go through them. And I'm going to make a whole video on exactly how this process works, but it is a tool for learning memory verses. And I think that's really an awesome thing that you can do, not only for your kids, but for your entire family. I know that both my wife and I have also really learned a lot from our memory verses. Next, we've got Bible games. And this is just an example. Like, it could be any game. This is a really old one, actually. I found it at a thrift store. But Life of Christ. There's also in this series the Footsteps of Paul and Egypt to Canaan, and they're just really kind of fun ways to engage and teach your kids kind of more of these Bible stories as their questions and that gameplay. It's another fun way for your family to interact while still learning about the Bible. And so I think that is something you should take into account, like, because it solves two purposes. Not only is it, helping your kids learn more about the Bible, but it's also bringing that family closer together, which is always a win for the kingdom. Another way that you can do it that doesn't actually involve Bible study, but is a incredible gift that you can give your kids and your family that bring them closer to Jesus is some kind of a parks pass. Maybe you have a national park near your house, and if you do, I'm mildly jealous because that sounds awesome. But maybe you just, like us, have some county parks nearby, or whatever it is. Find ways that you can get out in nature with your family. And there's a beauty to investing in a pass, because when you put some money into it, you have another level of incentive to go to these parks and to spend time in nature with your family. And nature is God's second book. And so this gives us a way to connect with God outside of reading. And it's a great way to spend an afternoon, to enjoy the summer. Well, honestly, to enjoy all the seasons, just exploring God's creation with your family. So get a parks pass. And this one is, it's kind of my own personal project, and that is, these are discipleship studies, which are Bible studies, but these are written specifically for parents to go over with their kids. They're hot off the press. I've got a few families that are doing them now kind of as pilots, and we're seeing how they go. But if you would like these, I'm not going to be able to put a link for these because they're not something you can buy, but reach out to me, and if you would like to have some studies for your family, let me know, and we'll see what we can work out. But they are 16 lessons. They're not long lessons. They take about a half an hour to do, between 4 and 6 verses on each lesson, and just some questions that are intentional about engaging the kids. It's not fill in the missing word, but it's questions that, are helping your kids dive into what is the meaning of that text. And so I call them discipleship studies rather than Bible studies or baptismal studies, because I want it to be clear that, whether your kid has been baptized or not, it's good to do some studies. It's good to learn more. It's good to engage them in what the Bible teaches and what we as a church believe. And there's a beauty to doing these studies as a parent, because as a parent, you have the ability to answer questions that the pastor never will, because more than likely your kids are wrestling with the same things that you wrestled with when you were younger. But also, another great reason as a parent for you to do discipleship studies with your kid is it helps you re-engage. Sometimes as we grow older, it's easy to kind of start taking some of our beliefs for granted or to not think about them. And this is a good way to just re-wrestle with those ourselves. And so I would encourage, no matter how old your kids are, find some ways to engage in family discipleship studies. Find ways to study with your kids. So those are 9 things you can give your family. Now, the very last thing, and this one isn't going to cost you a dime, but one of the best things you can give your kids, better than all of these things combined, is prayer. Pray for your kids. Pray for your kids day and night. And I realize I'm talking to the choir. If you're watching this video, more than likely you're like, I already am praying for my kids. And I just want to encourage you, don't quit. Keep praying for your kids, because God has the ability to do things that we can't even begin to imagine. And prayer gives him permission to do those things. So pray for your kids. And these are some things you can get your kids for Christmas or any other time. But here we have 10 gifts to bring your kids closer to Jesus. And if you've liked this content, I encourage you, subscribe. Hit that bell notification if you'd like to see more videos like this. But even if you don't do those things, give this video a thumbs up, because that actually makes a difference. It helps YouTube know, hey, this is something that we enjoyed. And so when you do that thumbs up, it really helps this channel. It makes a difference. Bye.